What's up, guys? We're back to r/pro revenge with a little bit of nuclear revenge as well. For the first story, we've got a sweet old lady who was screwed out of her money by a big bank and the revenge a single lawyer gets on them. Next, if you're gonna try and rob from someone, I highly recommend not robbing a district attorney. And finally, we have our nuclear revenge story as well. You'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out. And of course, we have our bonus at the end, so stick around for that as well. Alright guys, see you in a bit. Bank screws old lady. Lawyer screws bank. Old lady gets millions back. Financial advisors, employed by a pretty major bank, stole all the money of a wealthy old lady who was dying of Alzheimer's. And she didn't know anything until her lights were cut off. My brother was a pretty small-time lawyer and got the call to represent her. Every other big-time attorney in the area had either passed on the case or tried and failed to get anywhere. When you're up against a legal team who makes a collective $10,000 an hour, it's not easy. And since banks always have mandatory arbitration clauses worked into their contracts, she couldn't sue or even do discovery. Like, it was obvious what had happened, and the only people with access to the account were clearly implicated. But A, it was hard to prove without any access to bank records, and B, under arbitration, it wouldn't matter anyway. They could be criminally prosecuted, but the bank wouldn't have to pay back the money. Did I mention the bank had, at this point, frozen the lady's access to her own accounts due to fraud? She couldn't even get her own bank statements. Anyway, my bro became pretty obsessed with avenging this woman. By the time he got the case, she barely even knew what her own situation was most of the time. But her son just wanted to make the bank bend over. And my brother was all in. He managed to find an incredibly obscure technicality that nullified the arbitration clause and was able to force a major bank into the discovery process. That alone was a huge enough deal that the decision was written up in many legal newspapers across the country. After fighting and delaying discovery until the very last minute, the bank dumped 200 plus boxes of documents on my brother the Friday before the Monday discovery hearing. He had 72 hours to go through tens of thousands of pages of documents. He rented himself a hotel for the weekend so he'd have no disturbances, had a friend bring a dolly, and hand truck the boxes to the hotel room, and got to work. In one of the boxes was an email between a bank VP and the bank's chief lawyer. I incorrectly described this as two VPs in my previous post, discussing how there would never be a discovery process, so there was no need to destroy documents, i.e. future evidence, and also saying that they weren't worried about the little old lady's lawsuit since the bank had frozen her accounts, so she wouldn't be able to pay her lawyer, and he was just a small-time country lawyer, in their words, who would surely quit once he wasn't being paid. It wasn't like he worked for some huge firm that could just pay his bills while he worked. They also discussed how the lady would likely die of Alzheimer's before her accounts would be unfrozen once the fraud was proven to be false. They had my bro all wrong, of course. He was working all day on paying cases and then would stay up half the night working on this one, sometimes without getting paid anything for months. We did the math later. He made about $2.75 an hour for his work over a span of 7+ years. Anyways, these chuckleheads openly discussed several illegal acts in emails to each other, and then failed to destroy the paperwork proving they'd actually undertaken those acts, which legally they could have destroyed at the time, but they were so arrogant they thought they didn't have to. When my brother entered that into evidence Monday morning, they immediately motioned for a recess and offered to settle for, an undisclosed sum. He also won his client $10 million in a separate part of the lawsuit. One agent recently finished serving a long sentence in a federal prison as Bernie Madoff. He also lost his home, the beach home he bought with the old lady's money, and had his financial broker license revoked, and his wife left him. However, his kid did get a private college education paid for in cash with the lady's money, and he bought $200,000 worth of wine that was never recovered. Sadly, the lady did in fact die before the case was settled. So, the money went to her son and to a large charitable trust that elected my brother as the main trustee. So he gets to distribute the money he won in the settlement and see a lot of people benefit from his work. The funniest part of this revenge was that the apparent motive for the theft was not just that the agent wanted to be rich. He had accomplices, but he was the main mastermind. He specifically wanted to use the money to enhance his standings in the community. So actually, he donated a lot of the stolen money to charities so that he could be invited to huge galas, get philanthropic awards, etc. Now, he is broke, unemployed, divorced, and disgraced, while my brother is going to galas and getting philanthropic awards with the money this guy helped to pay for, with the sale of his houses, cars, etc. Pretty sweet. Gotta love the underdog victory where justice is served. It's only upsetting that the older lady couldn't have seen the ending, though. Level 3 crooks get obliterated by level 99 boss. Don't commit crimes you're too stupid for. What you need to know in advance. This didn't happen to me, but to my boss. He's a district attorney in a larger city in Germany. He drives an expensive car, and he has a device that signals the police where he is and that he's in danger. The participants are boss, 5 youngsters, B1 through 5, B5 was the mastermind, and the police. Now, to the story. One day, he drove home from work, and suddenly 2 boys, 17 and 16, B1 and B2, jumped in front of his car, forcing him to stop. My boss was really scared, thinking that they're going to take revenge on him, because he put many people in jail, and immediately pressed the button on his device to inform the police. The police immediately rushed with all available units, but they immediately shouted at him, accusing him of trying to kill them. The other 3 boys ran to the scene, also shouting at my boss that they were going to call the police and that he is going to lose his license. Then, one of the 2 offers that he could give them all the money he's got with him and they would leave him alone. At that point, my boss decided to serve some spicy revenge on these a-holes, knowing that every police officer available is rushing to the scene, and he only needs to play for time. So he immediately agrees, but under one condition. They all need to sign a written agreement containing that he paid the money and that they were not going to press charges / inform the police. Those dummies agreed, so he wrote the contract and everyone signed it. After they'd handed the paper back, they demanded the money, but my boss just laughed at them, stating that no one is gonna believe them since he had written proof that what they had done was highly illegal and that they were going to jail, not mentioning that the police was coming. The police came from effing everywhere. Dang, he cannot resist a big wide smile when he's describing their faces, and I can totally understand that. They were looking like scared ghosts on the verge of existence. One of the smart boys, B3, thought that this paper needs to vanish, so this dummy decides to rip it out of my boss's hands in front of the police, as they later realized this was their biggest mistake. Then they tried to escape the police, but B1, B3, and B5 were caught. The police thought they wouldn't get to know who B2 and B4 were unless one of the others snitched. Well, they didn't need a snitch because they all signed the paper with their real effing names. so the police got the other two as well. Fast forward to court. There were several trial dates, but I'll shorten it. Do you remember that I told you that B3 made a big mistake? Well, here in Germany, there's a law from the Nazi era still in place that gets you a minimum sentence of 5 years when you rob a motorist. B3 and B5, both above 18, got 6 years in adult prison, also because of their criminal history. B1 and B2 got 3 years in juvenile detention, and B4 was lucky with only community service. All in all, my boss didn't actually need to do much. They destroyed their lives, mostly on their own. A good rule of thumb if you're a stupid thief: if the person you're trying to rob pulls out a contract for you to sign, just run. This man is much smarter than you and you will lose. And to sneak in a little nuclear revenge: abuse my sister? I'll screw you up. This is a short one. FYI, I do not condone what my friend's brother did. Friend equals Gumbo, his nickname. Friend's brother, FB. Friend's sister, FS. Entitled woman, EB. And me is me. This happened last year. When this happened, FS was 17. FS was constantly physically bullied by EB, who was 19. She was held back. From what Gumbo told me, EB had been bullying FS over a boy, one that FS wanted nothing to do with. Gumbo's family had told the principal multiple times, but due to EB being the principal's daughter, nothing was done. Eventually, it got so bad that FS had to call FB, 20 at the time, to pick her up, because EB and her friends stripped her down in the girls' bathroom and threw out her clothes. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Gumbo and FB called me, and we bounced ideas on what to do. Gumbo asked about how they could get the law involved. Now keep in mind that at this time, we lived several states away, and I was unable to physically be there. What happened next was completely out of left field. When graduation rolled around, I got a Skype call from FB. I was confused on why FB would be at the graduation, as FS wasn't a senior. FB had the camera pointed to the stage, and had it pointed more to a large TV that had showed who was on the stage to get their diploma. About 20 minutes in, EB walked across the stage, and when she shook her dad's hand, the TV became staticky. On the screen was EB, and what I assumed was FB. I could clearly see his tattoo on his chest, having sex with the sound on. FB had recorded them having sex with her consent, and had one of his friends hack the computer to play it. EB lost her scholarship to a Christian university she applied to. Now, this didn't come without consequence. FB was eventually found out and was thrown in jail for 2 years with a $3,000 fine. I can respect that he stood up for his sister, and EB definitely deserved a punishment. I'm just not 100% sure if that was the correct way to go about it. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories. Now, let's get right into the bonus, which today is going to be r/facepalm. Let's get in it. If white men waitressed, we'd pay them 6 figures. You know, I think they do, and I swear they have a name. Wait, nah, I can't think of it, sorry. Minister confirms Britain will not leave Europe geographically. Wait. You're telling me they're not going to be putting rockets underneath a landmass and blasting it away from a continent? Well, what was the whole point of Brexit? Come on now. I'm a 22-year-old woman, married recently to a 25-year-old husband. I caught him cheating some months back with maid. I'm pregnant now. I want to make sure the baby's mine only and not the maid's baby. Where can I get a DNA test done? I'm not quite sure how to approach this one. I want to feel bad for her for a cheating husband, but at the same time, I fear for that baby's intelligence. People round the globe know the earth is flat. I know this is irrelevant to the whole flat earther argument or whatnot. I just think it's really funny that they're dancing on slopes. Like you couldn't find a flat valley anywhere to dance on. Alright, guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.